everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Heather.
And we are in the Laurelton Savannah this morning on this, is it fall?
Almost
fall day here in the Savannah, where you could say prairie grasses meet trees. That's where you're going to have a savanna. So here we have lots of grasses, but also sedges, small shrubs, and then lots of oak trees. Here behind us you can see this beautiful golden color. Heather, tell us what this is.
This is goldenrod. So goldenrod is in the genus Solidago. There's over 100 species, and we have quite a few here in the Savannah. This one right here is Solidago rigida, or stiff goldenrod. It has really upright, rigid stems and these really sandpapery little leaves. We also have right next to it Solidago missouriensis, which is Missouri goldenrod. Much more delicate and more lateral, side to side in its inflorescence. It's got these skinnier, pointier leaves, and it is still goldenrod. So all goldenrods have these beautiful yellow flowers. They're beloved by pollinators. Later today, when it's a little bit sunnier, it's going to be just covered in bees and butterflies and moths out here. They love drinking the nectar and collecting the pollen from these plants. They're also medicinal. They can be used to treat skin inflammation and other skin issues. And I know some of you out there are thinking about allergies right now. You're thinking, if I was there, my nose would be running, I'd be sneezing. And we're here to tell you that you've been blaming the wrong plant. Who should they blame, Alex?
That's right. Don't blame goldenrod. Blame this guy.
Who's that?
This is common ragweed, also known as ambrosia. So that's the genus. While these two flowers are actually in the same family, Asteraceae, this is in the ambrosia genus. This is the common ragweed. There's also a giant ragweed, a little bit taller, different shaped leaves, but very similar. This guy is responsible for all of your sneezing right now. These two plants are found in the same type of habitats. They bloom at the same time, so can be confused a little bit. But when you are having pollen-induced allergies, that is because the pollen grains are blowing around in this fall breeze that we have and inadvertently gets inside of your nose. But we are here to tell you goldenrod is not the culprit. Heather, tell us why this pollen is not the reason for our sneezes.
Yes, so goldenrod has pollen grains that are relatively large in terms of pollen and relatively heavy and sticky. So goldenrod is pollinated by, and we just saw one right here, there's a honeybee. It's pollinated by insects. The fact that the pollen is larger and heavier is a clue to that, because it can't just be carried by the wind quite as easily. What about ragweed?
Yes, so opposite of that is these pollen grains are very small, can be picked up and blown by the wind right into our noses, and it also produces a lot of it. One plant can produce over 1 billion pollen grains.
Whoa.
It's a lot. So very lightweight pollen on this plant.
And I've heard that this plant is responsible for 90%
yes.
of all pollen-induced allergies.
That's right. 90% is caused right here by common ragweed. So we're going to give you some tips on how to tell these two plants apart. Let's start with the leaves.
Yes, so as I mentioned, the leaves of a goldenrod plant are entire. They're not lobed. So I'll pull off an example here and we can look at some side by side. This is the rigid, or the stiff goldenrod, and the Missouri goldenrod. So see how they're just an entire leaf. Let's look at ragweed by example.
So no lobes.
Contrast.
And then this is ragweed. You can see has very lobed leaves, very feathery almost.
Right. And the giant goldenrod also has lobed leaves.
Giant ragweed.
I'm sorry, giant
yes.
ragweed. See, I'm doing it too. If you know what sassafras looks like, it's kind of a mitten-shaped leaf. That's what the giant ragweed looks like.
Yes, so if you're looking for ragweed, you have lobes. If you're looking for goldenrod, no lobes. Sometimes the flowers are a good clue. We obviously have yellow flowers on goldenrod. Ragweed is going to have green flowers, but I'll take you over here because I can see where you might confuse these two plants. You'll see here's the ragweed flowers. They are always green. This is a goldenrod, but Heather, what's happening here?
It just hasn't opened up yet. So these are the buds that are just about to burst and show that yellow petal. But they just haven't opened up yet. So this is how we can really see how someone might get these two confused.
Yes, so maybe early on, the really early stages of goldenrod, you might think, is that ragweed? But those are going to turn yellow. These will not. These are going to stay green.
And the last clue is the shape of the plant. So Alex has ragweed here. It's showing a lot of branching starting way down at the bottom of the plant all the way from the base.
Yes, lots of branches on ragweed.
goldenrod, on the other hand, is basically one stem all the way from the tip to the base. There's a little bit of branching sometimes, but it's very erect. It's not a lot of branching from the base.
Yes. Well, let's not rag on ragweed too much. There are some benefits to this plant, although it does cause a lot of allergies, a lot of sneezing. It does have some benefits, the first of which is a lot of caterpillars are going to feed on the vegetation of this plant that are very important, butterflies and moths. So still a food source for our friendly butterflies and moths.
And it's also a food source for birds. So the seeds produced by ragweed are really high in fatty oils, which makes them really nutritious for birds and other critters that eat seeds. And lastly, these plants have a really interesting connection to humans. So there are scientists out there who study dust. They're called palynologists.
Yes, palynology.
It does exist.
The study of dust.
So
Look it
cool.
up.
So you may know that much dust is really just pollen granules. And as we mentioned, ragweed produces a lot of pollen. So ultimately producing a lot of dust for people to study. So these scientists who study dust, they will dig down deep and look at the sediment from many, many years ago, and they can actually track the presence of ragweed. And ragweed really thrives in disturbed areas. It's what we call a pioneer species. So when people open up an area for agriculture or development, it lets in the ragweed.
Yes, so these plants are going to be the first succession, the primary succession plants that you see there. These are opportunistic plants.
Yeah, so when we look at the presence and the spread of ragweed in North America and elsewhere, we're actually looking at the presence of humans on the landscape. So this is a way that these palynologists have been able to track the movement of human development across the country and the world.
Yes, so humans and ragweed really go hand in hand. Even though we can blame this plant for your allergies, we can also blame ourselves.
Right. So next time you're sneezing, it's not goldenrod. It's really your ancestors to blame. Thank you guys for joining us for Plant Fact Friday, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.